Oh, hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Kieran Quinn. I'm the Research Support Librarian here in the library in Maynooth. So I'm just going to talk to you a bit about reference management software, and specifically probably Endnote, because that is the one we subscribe to in Maynooth. But probably some of you have kind of looked at other reference management tools as well. And particularly Mendeley, I know a lot of people use on campus. And I suppose the main draw of that was the fact that it had a desktop version with it. But with the full version of Endnote now available on campus, that kind of does away with that a bit. So I think at the moment, Endnote Desktop, probably combined with Endnote Online, is probably the best version that's available. For particularly that fact that you can work on your desktop, you can download unlimited PDFs, you can annotate PDFs. So any of the benefits I think that Mendeley have been kind of taken over a bit now by Endnote. But anyway, if people are interested in other reference management tools, I'm happy to talk to them about those as well. So what I might do is I'll start and I'll go through the full process, how to download Endnote, how to get it up and running on your machine, and so on. Feel free to put any questions you have into chat, and I'll take questions then at the end as well. So if you have maybe pre-existing questions about Endnote, maybe you've dabbled with it a bit and you just have questions, I'm happy to take those as well. So the screen I have open at the moment is just the reference management software guide that you'll find on the library homepage. If just go back a bit, there's a guide section there for guides and tutorials, and just go into research support and reference management software. Okay, and in this guide, I'm covering a few things in here. The first one that you'll see is Endnote Desktop 9, which is actually Endnote 19. So that's the desktop version we've had up to around September, when Endnote 20 became available to us. So some of you might be running that already. Endnote 20 is the new version, if you like, the upgrade. Though I would understand, I mean, there are reasons why some people are continuing to use Endnote 19. It's like any time a new version comes out, sometimes there's kind of a lead-in period where there might be issues in that. So if you're happy using Endnote 19, continue to do that for the moment, and you can always upgrade at a later date. I also have a guide in there on Endnote Online. So Endnote Desktop and Endnote Online, just to say, they're not, they are separate, but typically what people would do is you'd use them together. So you would have Endnote Desktop on your device, and so that would live on your device, and I think you can have it on up to 3 devices at the one time, and that's where you can download your records. You can work offline with it. You can have all your bibliographic records in there and your PDFs. But then if you're away from your device, you could use Endnote Online, and you can still access all your bibliographic references, do your citing and your references. Okay, and then what we would do is when you get back to base, you just synchronize the two of them, so you have kind of perfect mirror images of each other on those. So well worth it while use the two together. Obviously, if you're very new to all this, maybe just pick one, probably the desktop version, and go with that for the moment, and when you're feeling more comfortable, then you can sync them up. Okay, so the first thing you'll need to do to start with Endnote is you need to download it. If I can just shut that out of the way for a second. If you go into IT services, okay, and you can go into a thing called Apps Anywhere. Okay, so if you click into Apps Anywhere, and this is a platform that the IT department run where you can download various softwares that you might use on campus. Now you have an option when you get in here, depending on whether you're a Windows user or an Apple or a Chromebook user. Okay, you select the appropriate one. So just click the little arrow there. And there is your link to Apps Anywhere. Okay, so as you click into that, log in using your normal login, depending on whether you're a student or an academic. Into that, and you can see here a validation process going on. Okay, so I am now being validated. Let's open that. And we always hope that we will be validated at this stage. But anyway, you will be validated, and you can see down here, these are the links to the various softwares you can download, and there's your option whether you want Endnote 19 or Endnote 20. Pretty most of the new users, you probably just go straight to Endnote 20. Pre-existing users, you might be happy staying with Endnote 19. And you'll notice actually when you're validated, you'll have an option here. You can either launch it, which means you just use it on your device, but you don't actually download it, or you can download it. And you're probably better downloading it. But you could just launch it as well if you wanted to. And when you do download it, you'll download two files. Okay? One is the Endnote software, and there's another smaller file which will have product code in there. Okay, and just take a note of that, because as part of the download process, I have failed in my validation. Anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen to you. So, as saying, when you download it, two files. The bigger one has the Endnote software, and the smaller one has the product code in it. So, as part of the download, you'll need to pop that product code in just to complete your download. Okay. Now, when you do download it, you're going to end up with something that looks a bit like this, except I suppose in your case, it's going to be empty. You can see there, usually these are just lists of various references I've downloaded. There's some more. Okay, and they're all sorted into groups. But the first thing you need to do is, when you actually download it, is if you go into File and select New and just set up a file. Okay. And that's where all your references, your PDFs, are going to be stored on your device. You can call up whatever you want. You can have several of them if you want, if that suits you to have, you know, distinct EndNote libraries. Generally, I think for most people, it's just the one would be fine. So you could just leave it as my EndNote library. Then it's quite clear when you go looking for it, you know, where it is. So you'd save that. Okay, I'll just cancel that. So then when you go to open, you open library, and it's going to be, you know, my EndNote library. All right. Okay, and that's the main actually feature you use in that file. Now, other ones, just immediate ones, you might use export as well, but that's more if you wanted to export your EndNote references to another reference management tool. And similarly, if you wanted to import, so say you have been using Zotero or Mendeley, you could import them. Just import the file there. You can also use that for importing PDFs. So if you have a lot of PDFs stored somewhere, you can start to import those. Now, one thing about that is they won't all import with full records. If they have what they call DOIs, they will. So that's a digital object identifier, and you'll see that on your papers. You know, when you download a paper, you'll see that just down below, you know, the author details and title and so on, you'll see a little link there for DOI. And once that's there, that contains all the information EndNote needs to create the record. It'll do that. If it's an older article, for example, it doesn't have that, it'll just prompt you to fill in the appropriate fields. Okay, so that's the main points of interest just in files. So your new folder, you can export, you can import. Okay, just get out of that for a second. I'm just going to run across these just to show you the different functions that are in there. Edit. Okay, so that's more just, you know, fonts, that kind of thing. But an interesting one here is preferences that you might want to take note of. So with this, you can do some additional things, but particularly you can do a thing called PDF handling, which is quite nice. Okay, and what that means is you can designate a certain file. So for example, if you have a certain file or folder where you save all your PDFs, you can put in the details of that. And see this enable automatic importing. So every time you put a new item into that folder, it'll automatically import it into EndNote for you. Okay, and it's just one way of getting, you know, PDFs into EndNote. So I'll just cancel out of that. So that is the edit bit. References, like that. Again, a couple that are worth noting here is new reference. Now, so if you're going to put your records into EndNote by exporting them from whatever your database you're in. So if you're in Library Search or any of the EBSCO databases, for example, or Jstor, you can export straight into EndNote. And what I mean by that is it'll export the author, the title, the keywords, the abstract, all that essential information you're going to need for your bibliography. But if, for example, you have other unusual kind of things, so say a reference you don't have electronically, you can create a template to just put it in. So I'm just going to new reference, and you can see here it's kind of automatically offering me journal article. But if I go across the little down arrow, there's lots more templates in there. So lots of kind of, I suppose, maybe more unusual things. So a film or a broadcast, an interview, a manuscript, a map. It'll offer you the appropriate templates for those. An ancient text, you just click on that, and again, you can just type in then, you know, whatever are the appropriate fields. You know, if it was an interview, you got the interviewee, program, place, publish, and so on. Now, you don't fill in everything. It's just what you know you're going to need for your referencing. But also, please bear in mind that that's on the one hand, like EndNote is great for generating your citations and your bibliographies, but it's also great. You're kind of creating your own library. So probably the more detail you have, the better. But you can add all those in, and then just when you're finished, you know, you can just save them. You could also attach a PDF at that point. And there's also always this, and this is the same actually if you're importing records, this research notes field is always left blank. And that's where you can put your own comments in. And it'll take quite a bit of text, so don't worry that it's more than just a sentence or two. You know, you can put quite a good bit of text in there if you wanted to have comments on your various articles. Okay, so just, oh, so I could save that if I wanted to. So nothing in there, so I'm just going to go back. So that is that bit. So that's references. Okay, now the next one of interest is groups. So as you pull references into Endnote, it's just going to put them in a long kind of string like this. So you probably want to sort them into groups. So they could be groups by, you know, the name of a paper, a topic name, a subject name, whatever you want. You can just have separate groups. And that's where you can just go here and create a group. Just click on that, put in the name of the group, and it'll automatically just appear over here. Okay. So that's kind of useful. And then also in here, you have add references too. So when you import your references, for example, like that, I can just click on groups, add references to, and I'll automatically bring that record across to whatever group I'm going to bring it to. Okay. You can also do that by right clicking and it'll bring up the same thing. And you've probably noticed there that's one at a time. If you want to do multiples, you just hit Control and highlight as many as you want. And again, you could just right click to add references to a certain group, or just go back into groups and add references to. So as handy as that, very easy to kind of move them around. Okay. Now you probably also notice that over on the right hand side there, as I highlight different articles, you see the summary is appearing. Out of the way. Okay. So there is, these are kind of details that I have imported. So you see there, it's authors, title, it's journal title, volume, issues, page numbers, the DOI, so that's the digital object identifier, a link back to where I got it from. The abstract of the article is appearing. Okay. Now, if you wanted to edit that, actually you also see the full text is there because I've attached the PDF. Now, if I wanted to read that, I would just open it. And it's opening up the full article like that, which is kind of a very nice feature of this. And once I'm in there, I can also then see a little highlighter pen. So I can highlight sections, okay? And I can save that. When I go to close that, then it'll save for me. So when I go back into that PDF at any stage, it'll have that highlighted section for me, okay? Now, for some reason, and I think I've noticed this, there should be a function there to put in notes, and it doesn't seem to be there. It's definitely there in the version 19, but not here, but hopefully they'll sort that out and you'll have the function, then you can add your notes in as well. Okay. Second now. I'm just gonna close that down for a second. Leave that. Chuck me out. Okay. There for a second. So you see, very handy, very easy access, very easy to click along and just see, you know, the abstracts of the various articles. Like that, if you have the full text as well, you can just pop it into it there, open it up with Microsoft Edge, and, you know, highlight sections and so on. But I'll just keep moving across these. I think I got as far as groups. We did that. Then the library. There's a synchronization tool, and this is where you can sync your Endnote Desktop up with your Endnote Online if you happen to have an Endnote Online account. Okay. It's also an advanced search, and what that is, that's a search within the library you've stored in Endnote. Now you might think if you only have a few references, why do I need that? But you could have thousands of references in here. So you could use your advanced search just to find particular references. You can also sort your library, find duplications, find broken links to attachments, you know, general kind of housekeeping kind of thing. Okay. Tools. There's an option there to install a thing called Endnote Click Browser extension. And the idea of that is when you find the full text of an article, it'll offer you the option to pull that into Endnote as well. So you can go into that, which looks like this, and register with them. Okay. Let's see, that'll actually link to my locker. So not only will you be able to install this plugin, it'll also give you a record of, you know, what you've been finding and downloading in your Endnote account. So it's quite a nice little kind of additional tool. Some of you might have seen something like that before if you use Endnote Online. you'd see a link like that as well. And definitely if you're using anything like Mendeley, it's a similar kind of an idea. You know, it'll see what you're looking at on screen and then automatically pull that into EndNote. So it's one of those nice options just to pull your PDFs in. But I say you could attach them as well if that suits you. Okay, and that would just the attach file option you'll see in EndNote. Okay, so that is that. And there's the cite while you write. Okay, that'll bring you to the word processor. But this is a tool that'll automatically download when you download EndNote. And just to show you, I'll go back into some more detail later, but it'll download into your Word document. Okay. See the link up here, EndNote 20, and it gives you this little kind of plugin. And the way that works is as you type your paper, you can interact with your Word document. So it's effectively connecting your EndNote library to your Word document. Okay, so what you do in that case is just literally click Insert Citation, and that could be the traditional, author date, or you can also insert notes or insert figures if you wanted to. I'm going to insert a citation. You would search them by a keyword, and what's that doing? That's like searching in your EndNote library. You select the reference you want to cite, and you go down the bottom here and click Insert. And again, you can do your full author date, or you can just have author, or exclude the author, exclude the year, just put in the bibliography if you wanted to. So some people might just want the bibliography going in and not the citations. I'll just click that and just do a normal or regular kind of insert. And it's inserting author and date in the text and then creating the bibliography at the bottom. Okay. Now, if you don't like the way that looks, you can edit it at any stage, and to do that, you just use Edit and Manage Citation. The top one here is to edit the actual record in EndNote. So, for example, if one of these records came out, say, all in capital letters, for example, you can just go back into EndNote library and just do a universal change, if you like. You'll change it in EndNote library and it'll never be an error again. Or you could make kind of smaller changes, like put in prefixes or suffixes or page numbers. A prefix might be something like if you're reading a paper and the author is citing another paper, you might put in, cited by such and such in, that kind of referencing. But page numbers would be a common one to use for your direct quotes. You just put page numbers in as well. So that would be edit. If you don't like the style, you can change it up here. That's where you can hook into your style. It just shows the ones you've been using most recently. Okay, so easy enough to change. So if you wanted to say APA, just change it to that. Okay, so as handy as that. And if you're writing academic articles, it'll do it by journal title as well. If you want to do that. If you're publishing for a particular journal, it's very easy to change. And they've over 7,000 styles. Some of them are here. Other ones you'll find on the Clarivate website. I have details of that in the guide where you can actually go in, see the full listing of styles they have, and then just download any additional ones you want. Okay, but anyway, that's the cite while you write tool. And with that one as well, you can also, if you get kind of fed up when you're finished with having to use the edit function there, you can just convert the whole thing to plain text when you're finished. Okay, and what that means is it'll strip all that EndNote code out, and then you can just treat it as an ordinary Word document and just make whatever, if you've kind of local, variants on Harvard that you particularly like, at that stage you could tweak that a bit. Okay, so that's that bit. But I'll come back again on this at the end just to show you in passing that's the thing that'll automatically download when you download EndNote version 19 or 20. It'll automatically download onto your Word document. If you're using EndNote Online, there's a download tab in there, and you can just download Cite While You Write for EndNote Online. Okay, and you can kind of toggle between the two of them depending on what you're doing. Okay, so that's setting up the Endnote Desktop. And just to recap very quickly, you download EndNote from the IT website, go into Apps Anywhere, you download it, you're downloading your two files. The big one is EndNote software, the smaller one has your product code, and you need that product code just to complete the download. When it downloads, you're going to be seeing a nice empty EndNote. First thing you need to do is go into the file, New, set up a folder or file for all your references to be saved in. Okay. Other than that, the main functions are references, a new reference if you're putting something in manually. Okay. Creating groups, so you create a group, and then you'd highlight the ones you want to move to a group and just add references to, and just tell it where you want it to go. You can also do that by just selecting one and right click, add references to whatever group. And obviously, you know, if you don't have groups, you can just create one there, or you can go back there and just create a group there as well. So those few moves will get you up and running. The references go in and they're going to appear like that. Okay. There's a better one. For example, it's going to have the abstract, author, title, journal name, volume, issues, page numbers, all that essential information you're going to need for your references. And they'll also give you the option you can edit it if you want to, and they always leave the research notes field blank, which is down here, and that's where you can put your own comments in. Okay. So anyway, enough of that. So the next thing, how do I populate EndNote? Which is probably the most vital next question for you. And the way you do that is you just go into whatever Maynooth resources you're using. So if I just click into that, and most of the databases you can export straight into it. I say most, not all. Most of the, I suppose, the bigger ones, it works particularly well with. Not so good with the law ones, not so good with primary sources, but there's ways around that. So you can always contact us about that. There's kind of little ways of doing things. But I'll just go through a few different databases and just show you how you would export stuff. So for example, Library Search, which is the library discovery tool, which you've probably used. So what that does, searches across lots of different databases. And then once you find the references you want, you can export them into EndNote. So let's go into Advanced Search. Click my down arrow, all fields. So I'll just do a quick search. Okay. Going to run that search, and actually I might just, no, sure, leave it and everything. There's my results. Now, if you wanted to put that into EndNote, it's just the one over here, more actions. Okay. So click that and send it off to EndNote. Okay. And I'll just click it again. Just hurry along because it does that, I think, because it's a work computer. I have to click it in downloads and off you go. And there it is. It's come straight through into EndNote. If I select it, and you'll see where it's captured. Let's go to summary. So there's the title, the authors, what journal it is, various links, the abstract. Okay, it's all good, all very quick. So that's kind of one at a time. What you can also do is with Library Search, if you see this little, just get it for a second. This guy here, you can just pop things into a temporary folder, click into the folder, and then I could export the whole lot of them off to EndNote as a big group. Just a slightly kind of different way of doing it. And in they come like that, okay? Again, you know, if you're familiar with Library Search, you might know that you can make that a bit more permanent by going in here and just setting up an account with Library Search. So you have a kind of permanent record of the records you're finding. You know, that folder stays in there. Whereas if you use the temporary one, obviously if you log out, it disappears, but it's just an extra option. And then you can export a whole batch of records from your Library Search account straight into EndNote. Okay, so that's from Library Search, straightforward enough. So as I say, it's just either individually, your little dots and EndNote, or you can click these little folder guys. They'll pop up here, and then you can go in there and just, you know, export a whole batch of them if that suits you better. Okay, so that's from that one. Actually, I'll just show you as well Google Scholar, because I know like some of the content, I suppose, in Google Scholar can be a questionable sometimes, but the advantage is they have lots of it. And they have a lot of data in there, so it's a very popular resource. So if I run a search in there, and in the case of Google Scholar, it's just this one, site, and just click on that and EndNote. Okay, and again, off they go to EndNote. Just to backtrack a bit, I'll just show you a sample of the library databases, just because they look kind of, you know, slightly different. So say Academic Search Complete, which is an EBSCO database. Again, if you're not familiar with these, EBSCO just hosts this platform, and they have lots of databases. That's some of them you might use, like they have PsycInfo, a few education ones, history databases, and so on. But for this example, I'm just going to use Academic Search Complete because it's really just to show you how it exports. So again, if I just I'll just search that. Okay, there's my results. Go into my article, And then over on the right-hand side, you'll see various export options. So there is export. If I click on that, and there is my direct export in RIS format to Endnote. So you just leave it at that. If you're using Endnote Web, there's an option, separate option down there for it. Don't know why they split them up, but they do. So there you go. I just save that. Okay, and again, you can see it's kind of on its way into Endnote. There it is. Okay. So go back, search again. Do something like, yep, Jstor, another popular one that people would use. So again, do advanced search. So you run a search like that. So in this case, these little boxes, you can select the ones you want to keep. Just select them. And then you see this highlighting export selected citations. And again, it's just export to RIS file, Endnote. Again, there they are. So you just kind of go on like that. So you see, very easy to export them. And each time you're getting some really good records in, all the essential stuff, plus the abstract that you're going to need. So just going to go into Sociological Abstracts. And again, I'll just do a search. Again, with this one, you're selecting them. But rather than having anything handy like save, it's just into your all save options. And there's your option for Endnote. So you can kind of see what's going on here. There is, in most of the bigger databases, there's an option, whether it's called save or export. There's going to be something in there, some way of exporting into Endnote. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I know some people like Zotero and Mendeley, but you notice they're not appearing on this because they don't have that relationship with the database. With those, you're kind of depending on a kind of a capture tool. And in a lot of cases, they can't actually see the records. But you can be sure with these more established ones, there is an option for exporting into Endnote. So, it's a good choice. Now, this is going to ask me to log in and do all sorts of things. So, but I'm taking as read that I just click continue and off it'll go into my Endnote account. So I think that's, I'll show you more actually. Scopus is another popular one. Probably one of those databases actually, if you're not using it, you probably should. It's a really good, huge, big, over 20,000 journals in it, really good searcher, and also produces citations. So if you wanted, the citation count for a particular article or links to people who cited an article, this is probably the one to go to. Let's go and do a search in there. And again, in this case, there's your records. And you can see actually, see all the different filters. You can filter by who funded the research, what country it came from, the sources, all sorts of things. But what I do here is I just select the ones I want to export and just export. And there's my options. You can see it's actually offering Mendeley, and that's because this scope is actually own Mendeley. So, but we'll select Endnote, ask me what you want to export. Do you want the full citation information or just some of it? I'll leave it as that. We'll take all the information we can get. So leave it at that and just click export. Okay, and again, there I am. In it comes. There's the summary, and there's an option I could attach full text if I have it as well. Okay. So that's how you bring up your, and as I mentioned, just to reiterate again, you just right click them, add to group, and off you go. Simple as that, okay? I might just that's good. Okay. Yeah, just another group there. So I'll just show an example of one with full text. And again, if you are attaching your full text in, you're going to get obviously all the details that automatically come in, but then you also have that option at the top to open up your PDFs and annotate them and read them online. Or offline, I should say, actually, which is a big thing about this, that once those PDFs are in, you can go into your desktop, you don't have to log into the internet at all. So that's a great option, especially if you're doing something like a big literature review. You can just go into all your full text straight away. There's no having to, log in through a connection to get the full text. So it's a much quicker, kind of more efficient way of dealing with your material. And also online with that as well, I mentioned there as well that you can take out duplication. So like that, if you're doing a big literature review, dumping all your files in, you can just filter them out later, get rid of the duplications. So it's just a way of, narrowing down what you're actually going to look at for your, literature or systematic review. So, okay, that is the records in there. And as I mentioned, just to go back again to your Word document, you'll have automatically downloaded your Endnote 20 or Endnote 19, whichever it is. Tool, it's the Cite While You Write tool. And this is going to allow you to then bring those records across from your Endnote library into Word, create your in-text citations, create your bibliography. And it is a fantastic moment that, when you're writing your papers and you're doing your bibliographies in real time. So when you're finished, you might say. So I'll just go through that again on the Word side of things. So this tool will appear. I say, if it's from desktop, it's automatically there. If you're using online as well, you can download the Endnote Online Cite While You Write plugin, which will look the same, except it won't have 20 after it. It'll just say Endnote. And what you can do is you can use preferences then to kind of move between them. So if I go to preferences and application, I could select Endnote Online if I wanted to. So if I want to start pulling references from Endnote Online, I can OK that. And you can see the way it changes. And I could hook into my Endnote Online at that point, which, just in case you're curious, and you feel you might be a potential Endnote Online user, or maybe you are one already, just to show you very quickly what it looks like. This is what Endnote Online looks like. And for this one, if you're interested in getting, you can go into the Web of Science database, which I might have here, and it's not really cooperating with me today, but there's generally a products link there, and you can just download it. Just move that again. And say once you're in there, just very quickly, because a lot of you might necessarily be using this, but very similar. My references, there's a list of all my references. I can collect reference here through, don't really use the online search, but new references. And again, that's just the creating of the templates. Like that, if you wanted a dictionary, for example, I give you the appropriate templates. Import references, again, if you have them somewhere else, you can just drag them in. You can organize your groups, manage your groups. You can format bibliographies, download the Cite While You Write plugin. You can even match up papers in there as well. Housekeeping options, and then downloads. So this is where you can get that Endnote click tool if you're interested in that. I showed you that option in Endnote Desktop as well, and that's the one that'll pull in. It's a free plugin that'll pull in PDFs for you, and the Cite While You Write tool. But again, very similar, in its functionality, pretty much identical. Okay, but anyway, I was kind of chatting there about Endnote through Word. So again, as I mentioned, you've downloaded your Endnote Cite While You Write plugin. Actually, I'll just change that back to Endnote Desktop. There, okay, that. Okay, checking over there. I want to insert a citation. Put in your keyword, connects to Endnote, your bibliographies come up, select the one you want to cite, click insert, in it goes. If any of you are using footnotes, you can do those as well. And that's as handy as, there, find my spot. I go into references, insert footnote, then go back to Endnote, insert citation, select the citation, insert, and it generates the footnote at the bottom, the numbering in your text, and the item goes into your bibliography. So really just one extra move, I suppose, to do footnotes. You just have to use that references bit in Word just to insert the footnote, and then you just go back in and, as normal, and it'll start to generate those. And just moving across again. By the way, that link there goes back to Endnote. So if you just want to go back to Endnote itself, you can do it like that. just from your Word. And as you probably noticed when I went over to Endnote Online, there's a similar link back to Endnote Online. Editing and managing your citations. So again, you select the one you want to edit, and go into it, edit the citation or the full reference if you want to. Put in prefixes, suffixes, page numbers, or just change the entire thing if you don't like the look of it. And again, that's generally in relation to, if there's errors come in, additional information in a field you don't want, or something all in caps, that kind of thing. Then moving across again, changing your style. If you don't want to use those ones, you can select another style and you get more extensive listing. You can pull them in from there. If you're not happy with that, you can go to Clarivat and get more, and I'll show you that actually at the end, where you can actually download them. Converting, I mentioned that. You can convert the whole thing to plain text. And again, that's just, it'll take all that EndNote code out, and so it'll create a document that you can do what you want with it. If you want to make any adjustments to the referencing style, you can do that. And it'll offer the option, actually, it'll save both versions for you. So you'll have an EndNote version saved and a plain text version. So don't be worried about losing anything. It'll be there. And then I say the preferences. Okay. And actually, just in case any of you are wondering, Manuscript Matcher is if you want them to suggest a journal to publish in, you can put, say, the abstract of the journal in, and it'll find a suitable journal for you. So that might interest you. So nearly there on this. And just back again to this. Do the basic functions. The other one actually I didn't mention was share groups, which some of you might be interested in. This is a handy one if you're working on a group project. So you can create kind of a communal group that a number of people can access. And the way that would work is you create a group and just share it, click share group, and then you can find people and just put their email addresses in. And once they have an EndNote account, that group will appear in their account as well. And you can select whether it's read and write only or read only. And again, so that'd be great. So you could actually all be in the one group. As you find useful documents, they go into that group, and then people could go in, and annotate those documents as they go along. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And naturally, you need to be using actually Endnote Online with that, because otherwise, it wouldn't share it as effectively. But it'll share from here as well. But the idea is probably to have the online and the desktop working together. So that's probably me doing a lot of talking. So what I might do is just pop out of that for a second. And if any of you have any questions, or if there's anything in chat